Ready? Testing 1, 2, all cameras rolling. Here are my top 10 tips and tricks to capture insane footage using the brilliant new 8K Insta360 X4 with the latest firmware update. So the X4 has been out for a little while now, but the latest firmware and Insta360 app has just been released. So let's take a look at how to get the most out of this beast of an action camera. In 10th place, we have what I like to call 8K zoom. The X4 now has a lot more resolution to play with than the previous X3 model, which can only handle 5.7K. Now we have all of that glorious 8K. Putting these two resolutions side by side, you can see how much clearer the X4 is. On the main screen interface, you have 3 options for field of view: D-Warp, Ultra, and Mega, which is suitable for urban scenes when you want to capture lots of the environment around you. But this isn't actually the widest you can go, or the most resolution available to you. So here's a clip of our mate Louis in a skate park. He does an ollie here and comes to a nice skidding stop just about there. So you can see I've created a couple of keyframes already, but I want to create an 8K zoom effect. I'll pop another keyframe here, and you can see we have those Mega, Ultra, and D-Warp options we also saw on the camera itself. But down here is what's called field of view control, which lets you manually zoom in and out. So let's set this keyframe to zoom out to 120 degrees. And what this does is use more resolution available on the camera and a wider angle than what the Mega setting provides. We'll set another keyframe at the top of the ollie trick. Now we can zoom into 70 degrees. Make sure he's center of the frame, and just before the final skidding trick, place another keyframe, and at the end of the trick, a final keyframe to zoom all the way back out to 120 degrees. And here's the result. We zoom out for maximum wide resolution, zoom in for the trick, still maintaining high quality footage, and then a very cool zoom out as he comes to a stop. Here's a similar clip, 8K holding the selfie stick once again. We zoom in from that Mega view and zoom out to 150 degrees for that incredible tunnel effect. Number 9, we have the drop shot. For this, I'm using a bog standard tape measure and a thermo grip cover to hook the tape measure onto it. You can wind some tape around it for added security, and then if you're feeling confident and the area is clear below, choose your resolution. 5.7K and 60 frames per second should do it, and create some wicked drop shots. In 8th place, we have the pull-through shot. Placing the camera inside an object or through a gap and pushing or pulling the camera through using the invisible selfie stick, you can create those impossible floating, no strings attached video clips which will wow your audience. Again, using keyframes to pan and tilt will enhance the footage dynamically even further. Next, we have the quantum leap shot. Set the camera up in either 8K or 5.7K 60 frames per second for faster moving subjects, and choose 2 different water scenes like a lake or a fountain. And since the X4 has a waterproof rating up to 10 meters, simply film a nice sweeping dive shot into one body of water and exit from another. During post-production, stitch those 2 clips together at the perfect moment. Alternatively, use the zoom effect to pass across a scene and transition to another time and place. My next top tip is all to do with the latest firmware update and the new Insta360 app, which has been greatly improved. By identifying the objects in a picture and the relationship between the objects combined with scene recognition, it automatically helps users filter out the most likely to be used shots within a current scene. We also have the new movement options. Here's a motorcycle ride. Let's tap the keyframe button and we'll choose movement, and you can see we have a bunch of new movement effects. Here are some motorbike specific ones like the 360-degree view, which places that effect automatically over that section of the timeline. Now if we add another keyframe and choose a different movement like the 90-degree turn, export the video in 4K and here's the result. Here's first person view transitioning into a 360-degree rotation just as I pass underneath the bridge at the perfect moment. And then we fast forward to a 90-degree turn. For social media style content like that 1080 by 1920 aspect ratio, let's go from a tiny planet effect using a new keyframe and then merge this together with a 360-degree turn. And you end up with some very cool effects within a few seconds. Using these new automatic templates saves you a huge amount of editing time on content creation. Now, before we move on to other video production, don't forget that this camera produces stills images. So next up is perspective photography. And it's worth mentioning that this 72 megapixel camera, yes, 72 megapixels, you almost have infinite focusing from front to back. You can get as close as 4 or 5 inches from the lens and produce some amazing depth of field shots with sharpness across the entire frame. Next up, we have the Timeshift feature, one of my absolute favorites, and Insta360 does this so well. The beauty of Timeshift is that you can choose this option in camera to create those time-lapse speed shots with movement and stabilization, or you can convert a regular video clip taken in 30 frames per second into a Timeshift using the studio software. This is the jump shot. For this, you'll want to be about 6 inches off of the floor, and it doesn't matter where you point the camera because, of course, it's 360 degrees. Then get the subject to take a good running jump over the X4, preferably in 60 frames per second so you can slow the footage down in post-production and add keyframes to change the angle of the camera. Alternatively, use the selfie stick to achieve those dynamic jumping follow shots while hurdling over the stick. This will show the audience where you've come from and where you're going to. So if you're in an area where you're not allowed to fly drones, like in a city for instance, we can emulate FPV drone shots with the Insta360 X4, just as if you were flying one. For this, you'll need the invisible selfie stick and some kind of extending rod. You can buy an extended edition selfie stick straight from the team at Insta360, which reaches almost 10 feet. Or you can DIY the job and use a monopod just like this one. Actually, this is a third leg from a tripod. Even better. Attach them together, which gives me about 9.5 feet. Set the camera to shoot 8K resolution and fly the X4 from high to low, trying to keep the camera in front of you while circling your subject matter. Then you can experiment with those all-important keyframes in the studio software. So in top spot, first place, we have Top Gear. What this camera is absolutely brilliant for is third-person car and bike follow shots that simply wouldn't be possible with any other camera. You would most likely need a film crew and a rig. So for the bike shots, I'm going to use one of these. It's called a back bar and it has a tough aluminium locking structure. Even though it's called a back bar, I find that you can position it around the front or the side if it's safe to do so. For the sports car shots, using the invisible selfie stick or that slightly longer monopod to hang out of a passenger window or sunroof, you'll wind up with video clips that are normally only achievable with an expensive Top Gear film crew. Now, I know this is a top 10 video, but there are so many more standout features on the X4, like the wicked bullet time, which gives us 120 frames per second slow motion video with 360-degree rotation for capturing those panoramic environmental shots. With the latest firmware update and when connected to the Insta360 app, we can use the X4 as a live streaming broadcast camera in either flat or 360-degree for places like the YouTubes. The X4 is also a brilliant interview and podcasting tool because it records front and back. Simply place the camera in the middle of two people and press record. Now, I know what you're going to say. This is a sponsored video and I've been told to say all of this. It is sponsored, but I haven't been told to say it, and I'd be saying it anyway. I believe this is a brilliant action camera. I was a fan of the X3 a couple of years ago, and now the X4 with this 8K and the advances in the firmware and the app, it's truly magnificent. And hopefully the footage in this video speaks for itself. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more photography content, and I'll see you on the flip side.